Hey, this is Rob Anspach with eHeroes, and today's eHero is returning Steve Gamlin. And today we're going to probably talk about resolutions as you're listening to this podcast on January 1st, 2020. So we're getting into the clearer vision digits here. So welcome, Steve, and let's chat.
Sure. Happy to be here again, Rob. Thanks so much for the invite. I even wrote eHeroes over on the chalkboard there for listeners, and there's like 3 chalk dots on the floor. I wrote it down one time and it looked like it said e-herpes. So I'm like, Rob is going to nail me for that. So I redid it and it's just chalk everywhere here.
It's the podcast that keeps on giving, right?
Yes, it is. It's a lifetime subscription to the broadcast.
Always itching somewhere. That's we got this off to a great start.
Yep.
But I think that's what 2020 needs, is that we need more laughter. We need more, not necessarily clearer vision, but we need focus. And then what I've been noticing is that, although I'm great at content creation and I'm great at social media, I've noticed that social media has given people a voice that maybe they don't need. Maybe some of these people need to sit back in the corner and just be quiet because they're creating conflicts that they don't need to.
Yeah. I commented to a friend the other day. They were talking about politics and religion and everybody fighting over stuff. And I said, some people just wake up every day and their part of their prayer is, give us this day our daily outrage. And they're looking for something to complain about. Now, maybe they feel pushed in a corner in their lives. Maybe they feel like they don't have a voice because of who they surrounded themselves with, and emotionally they feel inferior. Social media is the great equalizer. It gives everybody a voice. Some people use it to build things up, as you and I do, or content creation, or to further our careers. And some people use it because that's their way to get back at the world and be heard and acknowledged. And it's kind of sad in a way for people to feel that. I think social media is a great way to spread a positive message, because there's just as much good stuff going on out there as bad stuff. And we have a choice of how we amplify it. I think some people are making choices that are actually hurting themselves in the long run.
Yeah. And before the call, we were talking about, people who get triggered a lot. And I think that people who do get triggered, who get emotionally, maybe too invested in what other people are saying, shouldn't be on social media. They don't have thick skins. They don't know how to allow other people's words to bounce off them, and they're just quick to cause a fight.
Yeah, I think someone needs to invent the "I'm rubber, you're glue" app, and just somehow infect the computers of some of these people, because you're exactly right. The thin skin, and it just lets everything through, and it just becomes outrage every day, and that's not a good thing for your brain and your heart or your stomach. Is to just have that acid flowing every single day through everything. And when that becomes your natural reaction to everything, it's not going to end well.
Right.
And if you're an entrepreneur, it's going to be even worse, because you're going to say or do things that will directly affect your business. And I have to be very careful of that with what I do.
I also have this tendency, though, to be an instigator. And some people see that in the posts that I put. It's not that I want to instigate. It's not that I want to get people riled up. I want them to start thinking on a different level. My book that just came out, Rob versus the Morons, teaches entrepreneurs basically how to, run their business on their terms and not have to worry about always being so politically correct, or bending over backwards and letting the customer give it to them. That's not how you run a business.
Right.
You run a business on your terms. And when I put out posts, I want entrepreneurs to understand that it's you got to call the shots. You got to tell the customer what to expect. The customer's not always right. They just don't always understand how you do things.
Right. And you also put out the warning signs of how people are out there trying to take advantage of you all the time as well. If you're a new entrepreneur, and I've been at this for, one of my businesses just turned 26 years old. And in the early stages, if I perceive somebody as having the answers or more knowledge or more wisdom or whatever, it was very easy for those people to separate me from some of my money. So you're firing flare guns over the bow, lighting up some of these situations, typically in a humorous way, in a very blunt way, but you're also making people aware of what's out there and how they have to honor themselves and just to be really careful because somebody else's goals may not be in alignment with your goals. Their goal might just be to get your money
Yeah.
or
Well,
steal your identity or whatever. And just, you got to be careful and be educated.
let's talk about goals and resolutions, because we're getting into this. So, and I think it's been this way for many years. Is that people make these resolutions that they're going to do better in their business, in their life, in their relationships. And in 15 minutes after the ball drops and it becomes 2020 or whatever year that you're listening to this, they're breaking those resolutions.
Oh yeah, yeah. They say that the day of New Year's Eve, prior to all the consumption of everything, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to be healthier, I'm going to be happier, I'm going to make better decisions. And the ball drops in at, quarter or two in the morning, they're hanging at Denny's, face down in a grand slam breakfast, breaking every resolution, and they're complaining about whatever's going on in the world. So I used to always I had a stage story where I would share a picture of a list of resolutions I wrote. Was it feel better, be happier, more money?
Hmm.
That for most people, when you're that vague, and at the end of the year, you're wondering about your resolutions, and you see that folded up piece of paper under the lamp in the living room, keeping it from rocking, and it's got the pizza guy's number on it and some salsa stain, and you unfold it and you go, "Oh crap, my resolutions." You go, I know. They take out a pen and they just change the year and they go, next year. And they stay with the same vague things. My thing is, if you want to turn a resolution into a goal, just quantify it even a little bit. Give it a
Hmm.
little bit of a descriptor.
Yeah.
All right, you want to feel better? Great. Does that mean you're going to eat better? Does that mean you're going to exercise? Does that mean you're going to go get some lipo? I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to go buy a Peloton? Because I'm sure they're selling a ton of them this year. Are you going to be thankful that you get a Peloton for Christmas? Are you going to be bitter? You've got to start to quantify it and give it some descriptors and be as emotional as possible with them. And because I do the vision board work, and
Right.
I just try to get people to understand and to see what would it look like if you took this resolution and really blew it out and made it real. So get beyond the more of whatever and start to quantify it. Be
I remember
emotionally tied to it.
I remember about 20 years ago, I read a book by Mark Victor Hansen, the Chicken Soup from the Soul guy. Him and his partner who wrote the book did some other ones, The Power of Focus and The
Mm,
Aladdin Factor. Within The Aladdin Factor, he basically said, write a list of about 101 things that you want to accomplish over the next, your lifetime. But don't make them vague. Make them, you want to write a book, you want to do this, and so I made this list, and he requested that you mail it to him.
mm,
And a year later, he mailed it back. And what I've discovered looking at that list is that I achieved a lot of those things on that 101 list
mhm.
within the first year.
Yeah.
And if you write them down and you study them and you look at them and you kind of go through them, what happens subconsciously, you are going to start to achieve these 101 goals. Um,
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
every year I cross off the ones I achieved and I add more. So I always have something that I'm shooting for.
Mm,
But within that probably 10 years um, after I wrote that first list, I had achieved almost 80% on that list.
yeah.
I had written a couple books. I had met certain people. I had done this and done that. And one of them was take my wife on the beach, ride horses.
Mm,
But it was also, another one was, take her on a trip up the coast of California. Well, I achieved about 6 of these goals within that one trip.
mm,
And so resolutions are great, but I think written goals are better
yeah.
because they help force your brain to continue to find a way to do certain things.
Yeah, and I think another part of too of writing them down is you activate, you turn on the reticular activating system. You start to see the opportunities for it,
Hmm.
and some people go, "Oh wow, what a coincidence!" Well, mm, it's the opportunities have always been there, but when you dial in and tune in and narrow the focus instead of saying, "I want, this broad brush thing," I want this to see the opportunities pop up all around you. And it's amazing when it happens. It can be a little confusing and overwhelming at first,
Hmm.
but here's the cool part about it. You're going to see opportunities to take that first step and the next step. And the goals that you wrote down your first year, if you look back and you accomplish so many of them, it's not just what you're getting, it's the person you're becoming in the process because
Hmm.
you're getting better at certain skills. And if you look at the goals that you're writing down now versus ago, if you look back at that list, you'll find out that you had to do those little versions of these big things to get the confidence, the muscle, the skills, the intelligence, the confidence to continue to build. So you have to start. It's not that you have to start small, but you just have to start.
Yeah.
And eventually you look back and go, wow, okay, that was my kindergarten goals. And I used to joke, I said, if my mom put a frame of macaroni and glitter on these goals, they'd be hanging on her fridge like a kindergarten project compared to what I'm doing now. But you have to start somewhere. And if you just stay stuck in resolutionville by saying, I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, I want more money,
Yeah.
good luck.
You
Maybe
know,
you'll buy a winning lottery ticket. Who knows? But
well, yeah, and don't put a winning lottery ticket as your goal because that just doesn't do it. And to say that you want to make $1 million without, ever achieving 25,000 or 30,000 isn't going to make sense either because there
right.
is no stepping stone through that.
Yeah, I did that one year, many years ago. I said, next year I'm going to make $1 million. And this was on a New Year's Eve. And all my friends are going, and of course, at the time I was in radio making minimum wage. And I think it was the first year of my DJ business. And they said, oh, by the way, Steve, what did you make this year between the two? I said, 23.5, I think. And they said, okay, we'll see you in a year for the million. And, like January 3rd or 4th, somebody's going, hey, take me to lunch, Mr. Millionaire. And I'm like, oh, crap. I said that out loud, didn't I? Yeah. And they said, we wouldn't laugh at you so hard if you'd actually made a plan of how you were going to make the million. You just kind of left it open-ended, like,
Yeah.
it always goes back to The Secret for me and the law of attraction. And I think The Secret did a great job of broad brushing the basic concepts. But
Mhm.
if they didn't put that dang genie in the magic lamp, your wish is my command. And like,
Yeah.
no, don't say that.
Yeah.
Have the goal, but then figure out a way to get there. That this genie is going to come down and grant every wish, because you wouldn't appreciate it if you got everything you asked for, and you wouldn't become a better person for it. You'd
Right.
probably get pretty jaded and lazy.
And the thing about that is that, sure, you do have to ask for the things that you want or desire or need,
Mhm.
but you also have to understand that not everything is going to come the way you ask.
Mm,
And but here's the problem: is that I think people have been um, kicked in the rear too many times for asking, so they stop asking, and then
yeah.
they wonder why their dreams aren't happening
Yeah.
because they got beat too many times.
Hmm.
Um,
And you're right. That happens too. And some people say, well, why should I try? Every time I do, something bad happens. Well, maybe you should examine your approach a little bit, or be careful of what you're asking for. I mean, my stepmom, about a year ago, just over a year ago, my dad passed away, and she wanted to go from her small car to an SUV to be safer driving in the winter, because my dad would drive her everywhere. And she kept saying, well, I want a new car, but I don't know quite how to do it. And I really want to get a new car, but I don't know if I want payments, but I really want a new car. And she just kept dragging it on and on and on. Finally, somebody rear-ended her car and totaled it, and she had to buy a new SUV.
yeah.
And she said, is that like that law of attraction thing you talk about? I go, kind of, but I go, I said, I usually try to use it for good, but what you created was a situation in your life where you said, I want a new car.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it was directly related, but it was a stunning coincidence. The only accident in her entire 77 years comes when she says, I want a new car, but she dragged on for 3 months. And
Yeah.
It just
You know,
happens.
the universe has a sense of humor.
Greatly.
So, you know, if you're going to ask for something, do it in a positive way, because a
Yeah.
negative way may end up, getting you into an accident.
It can. I mean, life happens. Life happens every day. Good things and bad things can happen to us every day. If
Yeah.
you set up your ground rules and try to err on the side of caution and do things in a positive way, your outcomes are probably going to tend to be more positive, or at
Yeah.
least you'll see the good in it if something
You know, I
does
was
happen.
reading a study the other day, and it says that a lot of entrepreneurs are, at least lately over the last decade, are falling more into depression
Mm,
because it's harder for them to make money, doing what they do. And they see their friends who have these jobs, making decent income, but they're making money every week,
yeah.
and for me, I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, and sure, there's going to be days where you kind of get the funk, but
Hmm.
you got to learn to get out of that funk to start making money, because as an entrepreneur, you have the opportunity to make way more money than your friends are, but it's up to you to do it.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know?
And I've told people that. I said, every day when I wake up, I'm unemployed.
Mhm.
If I don't create something new that day, whether it's a cold call to a potential client, or to book a speaking event, or to sell copies of a program or books, or write an article, create a radio show, create a video, whatever. So
Mhm.
every day I've got to put something out there. And because I did for so many years consecutively, there's a guy named Robert in Australia who buys the first copy of everything I create. Any program or book I've created over the past decade, he's the first one to buy it. And he always says the same thing. I remember the first time I read your stuff on Facebook and really liked your approach. So every time you create something, I will be the first to buy it.
Wow.
Now I have to create Roberts every single day,
Mhm.
or I'm just another guy out here on Facebook posting positive messages.
Yeah.
It's got to take root, and I have to do it intentionally, because there's nobody else out there who's going to do it.
Right.
And isn't it funny? We do fall into funks, and I fall into deep funks at times. But so many people look at us and say, "Wow, Steve, Rob, you're so lucky. Get work for yourself and do whatever you want whenever you want." I don't think I ever worked as hard as I do now.
Well, they don't call me lucky. I know you get that a lot. They
Mhm.
normally call me an asshole, but that's
Well, I'm thankful I don't get called that very often, but there have been a few. A couple things I posted over the years, for whatever reason, have offended people, and
yeah.
occasionally I get, not as much as you get, but I do occasionally get people who don't like being.
But the funny thing is that over the last year, me being who I am, being my sarcastic self, my true self, I've gotten better types of clients. I've gotten clients who, want to stick with me, want to, bring wheelbarrows of money to me,
Yeah.
and they're happy for what I do. Now, granted, I can be a little rough. I can be a little, direct in your face. But once you're my client, I will defend you to the ends of the earth. And
Yeah.
I am, one of those guys that want to be on your side, until it's time to get rid of you, because, not everybody can deal with me for, a long time. My wife's been with me 31 years, and I'm glad she hasn't killed me yet. So,
Yeah. Do you ever catch her at 3 in the morning watching the ID channel with a pencil and a notepad? Because I swear I've caught Tina figuring out how to skirt the law a couple of times if I've ticked her off. But here's the thing with that, though, blindingly authentic with yourself.
yeah.
You don't sweet talk someone to get the deal and then become your interview with first interview with a client, I'm imagining, is sarcastic Rob.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But see, some people need that.
Hmm.
Everybody knows, and I worked in radio for 10 years, and there was always that really slick salesperson who could go out and schmooze and charm and do all this, but you knew really they were not like that.
Right.
They'd get the deal and they wouldn't even service their own clients,
Yeah.
and no loyalty. They would just on to the next, on to the next. And the rest of us, the radio station, suffered from that because we had to pick up all the slack and do all the work.
Yeah.
So you're just authentic right out of the gate, and the right people will find you and be willing to invest in that.
And the when you're doing that right out of the gate is that you're pre-qualifying the person. If they jive with you right off the bat, if they like what you're saying, it's going to make your relationship with them better down the road. If
Yeah.
they feel annoyed, if they feel offended, you don't want to do business with them.
Right.
And I find it's the fastest way to pre-qualify, to get rid of them, and to whittle down that preconceived avatar I have in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Does this person that I'm speaking to on the phone get it? Do they match this image that I have of the perfect client?
Yep.
And if they don't, they're gone. There's plenty of customers out there. There's plenty of people who want to hire me. I shouldn't have to settle for this person who, thinks I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Yep. And on the DJ side of my life, my DJ company is 26 years old. And you just reminded me of about 10 years ago, I met with a potential bride and groom, and I know exactly where I was. I was in Bedford, New Hampshire, out behind the Bedford Village Inn. Beautiful property. I've been there 145 times.
Mm.
Within 5 minutes of our first conversation ever, the groom was being degrading to the bride right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Our ceremony's outside. Should I have a microphone?" I said, "When is it?" She goes, "It's a Friday evening around 5 o'clock." I said, "Yes, the road is fairly close to the property. There's going to be a lot of traffic and horns. You want a microphone?" And he instantly says, "See, I told you it was stupid to have a ceremony outside." And I just went, the switch went in my head. I'm like, I'm going to sit here and answer their questions. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to call my agent and say, there is no way in hell. And this is almost a $2,000 wedding. It would have been a huge payday for
Mm-hmm.
me. I said, there's no way in hell I'm working with this person because I can't even imagine what he's going to be like with his buddies the night of the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're drinking. I said, my integrity will not allow me to work with an a-hole like this. And I called my agent and I said, give him to somebody else because the money's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit at home and make nothing that night because I can't sit around panicked over what's going to happen the night of this wedding. So
it's
I can't. And it's funny, I got hired recently because of that.
Yeah.
I shared a story. Somebody said, is there anybody you won't work with? And I said, yeah, I'll tell you exactly who I never worked with. And I told the person the story and he on the phone, he goes, you're hired. I like your integrity. And I just picked up a booking for next year because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So just be who you are. That's all.
Yeah.
Be real.
Yeah,
your audience will find you. You'll find your customers.
Yeah.
Just be who you are.
And I think that, not to bring politics into all of this, but, whether you love him or hate him,
Mm-hmm.
Trump has found his audience and he polarizes those who don't really like him. And
Yep.
so there's this big, separation. But he's doing exactly what he's been doing for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, no, he's all this. No, he's not. He's none of that stuff that you think he is. But what he does is he knows how to control the media. He knows how to control the message. And he knows how to get people to do stuff. Bottom line. And, he understands his audience. He understands how to jazz them up.
Yep. Oh, he basically said, I'm sick of the system,
Mm-hmm.
of politics. And I'm not going to be that way. I'm not going to play the game. And he, and again, I'm not saying for or against.
Right.
He most certainly has not played the game in the traditional sense. Yeah. For whatever it's worth, he's doing what he said he was going to do, I guess. So
yeah. And I find it ironic because one of the biggest things, if you don't want someone, to either hire you, or you want other people to hire them, is you keep quiet. You don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
If the media would just shut their mouth and don't tell the public what's going on, no one, everybody would say, well, yeah, that's right. Trump is that guy. Let's get rid of him. but they just keep on fueling the fire. And Trump's sitting
Yep.
back on, yeah,
Yep.
he's eating it up.
Yeah. And there are people, and the sad part about it is it brings out the worst in so many people. And it goes back to what we're talking about everybody having a voice on social media. There are
Mhm.
people that I've known for years, and there are people who are important in my life who have spent almost every day since the last election using their social media as a voice to bash
Yeah.
and bash and bash. And I've reached out to a couple of them and say, okay, I mean, I'm not telling you what to do with your channel, but what are you doing about it?
Mhm.
I mean, one of my biggest things is especially homeless veterans. Now, if I went on every day and just said the government should take better care of homeless veterans and just said that every single day, that's not going to help a single homeless veteran.
No.
So instead, what we do is we establish Beach Bum Philanthropy. It's actually in the process. The paperwork is with the state of New Hampshire right now to become a 501c3. So we
Mhm.
can get more funding and support to help more. And we make bag lunches every week. We're anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 bag lunches per year for homeless and in need veterans. And we do clothing drives and we do all
Mhm.
these other things. So instead of just going on and bashing all day, I
Mhm.
encourage people, make it one of your goals or resolutions
Yeah.
to do instead of just, the world has enough screaming. We need more doing.
You fill backpacks up with food and blankets and all kinds of stuff?
Next week, Christmas Day, that's our 5th year. It's a family tradition. We do not buy each other gifts anymore.
Yeah.
We get together at my mom and stepdad's house. She makes a homemade coffee cake. We stuff our faces, and we've got tables all around the perimeter of the inside of their house. And we've created an assembly line for backpacks. And there are about 35 things that go into a backpack
Mm.
or get attached to the outside by a bungee cord. I mean, these things weigh like 15 pounds each when we're done.
Mhm.
And instead of just sitting around screaming and complaining, just what can you do to make it better? Even if you can't change law or policy, what can you do to help the people out who aren't going to survive long enough for law or policy to
That's
be
right.
changed? Don't look down at the homeless. At the very least, just be nice or don't say anything at all. It's heartbreaking what people are going through after a couple of simple life changes,
Mhm.
how everything can get taken away and all of a sudden they're still many homeless people they're good people.
Mhm.
Life just kicked them in the jimmies a couple times real quick and they couldn't get back above water.
Right.
So instead of screaming about it or yelling at them, what can you do to make it better? It's a simple
And see,
question and it could lead to your best goal of the year.
that's what makes Steve an e-hero. And so, how do people learn more about you and your Beach Bum philanthropy?
They can go to Beach Bum Philanthropy on Facebook. Beach Bum is one word. And for everything else regarding me, it's motivationalfirewood.com.
There you go, people. So, help Steve out. Help the homeless vets out. Donate to his cause and send them backpacks and food and money and because these guys, they need it. They need help. And I hope that you found benefit from the podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Adios.